Tiki Taka football, a phrase that almost sounds derogative towards itself. It's a phrase someone like Graham Souness, you can imagine, using to mock the notion of the type of football Pep Guardiola brought to the public forefront with his Barcelona team that dominated world football between 2008 and 2012. The key principles of which have now been adopted universally almost as the right way to play football. And when I say right way, imagine I'm doing this because there isn't really a right way, but the universal opinion seems to be that this is it. In a game like FIFA, is it really possible to be successful at the highest level playing this kind of football? To me, the two principles of Tiki Taka are, when on the ball, a short, patient and at times tedious passing game intended to draw out your opposition players, and a pressing game intended to force mistakes from the opposition in order to regain possession as soon as possible. Both of these things go against the meta way of playing, so trying to play and force a Tiki-Taka style almost leaves you falling exactly into your opponent's hands. The meta in FIFA is to play as quickly on the ball as possible. You only have 12 minutes to win, not 90 like real life, so why waste your time going left to right all game? When it comes to defending, the perceived wisdom of the professional FIFA players is to stand off as much as possible, allowing your opponent to have the ball until they eventually make a mistake when they try to force a pass through the 11 players you have behind the ball. So really, you'd be an absolute idiot and moron to even attempt to be successful on Ultimate Team by playing a Tiki-Taka-like system. Yet it's something I've done now for 5 years and I intend to continue doing. You've clicked on this video, so you obviously have some kind of twisted mind that means you want to give this a go. For me, it boils down to this. Would I rather live the disgusting lives of those who abuse the game mechanics to win, or die a beautiful death in a blaze of glory concocted by my own Tiki-Taka style in which I have 75% of the ball but still manage to lose 3-0? I'll take the beautiful death every time. Lastly, before we do go into the system and tactics, I do want to say I have spent around 50 games playing this style this year because it is very different before bringing out this video, tweaking and changing very small details. Is it perfect? Absolutely not, but it has taken a ton of effort to get to this level. If you have any further tips of how you think it could be made better, anything you do to play this style, please comment them down below. I will read every single comment and kind of adapt my own style to that. In an ideal world, the system would be the obvious 4-3-3 with a false 9, a formation and system practically squeezed out of the womb of Pep Guardiola. After experimenting with that and all variants of the 4-3-3, I've actually found that the best system to use is the 4-1-4-1. On paper, it lines up pretty similarly to the classic Barcelona tactic, the difference being that the wingers are pulled back as wide midfielders and the striker is an out-and-out forward. This seems to work a lot better on this year's FIFA for this type of football for quite a few reasons. Firstly, it seems to manually push your fullbacks further up the field. In my brain, that shouldn't work, and the 4-3-3 would work better for this as the fullbacks have more open space to operate in. But for some reason it doesn't, I have no idea why. In a 4-3-3, the fullbacks tended to sit back all game, even with the most offensive player instructions, which really killed a large part of this tactic. Secondly, it seems to work a lot better in terms of keeping the midfield triangle a lot closer together. With the 4-3-3, your left centre mid and right centre mid, your Xavi and Iniesta, would sometimes be drawn so far wide and it became very difficult to rotate passes between them. And the ability to do that with ease is what a large part of this tactic depends on. So 4-1-4-1 is the formation to go with. The custom tactics are in your face right now. Copy them if you want, but I'm going to break it down a little bit further about why I've made the choices that I have, as some might seem at odds with what you'd expect from a Tiki-Taka system. I'll put a time code on now if you want to just kind of skip through to the next part of the actual tactic. So the first reason for these choices are width. For around the first 25 games of this system, I had the width at around 7 bars high for each, but found the main impact that this had was dragging the two central midfielders very far wide, and the same for the front three. On the older FIFA, this worked fine with it being much easier to string a succession of quick 25-yard passes without much thought. It also matched well the fundamentals of this style of play, making the pitch as big as possible. On this FIFA, however, with the passing being much more difficult in terms of needing to have the ball under control, the player well balanced, etc, etc, I have found that the narrow system works much better in terms of keeping the ball, which is, to me, the main thing of this entire style. In 6 months, maybe when I'm a little bit better at the game and the players I have, we have the actual Xavi and Busquets rather than João Moutinho and Philip Foden, maybe we can make this a little bit wider. Players in the box is pretty self-explanatory and if anything could be a little higher. With this system we are looking to almost overload the opponents at times, especially in the middle. The crucial moment comes when you have a player free in space for an easy pass to then tuck home. Having your midfielders and wingers also getting in the box makes this a whole lot easier. The other key thing to note here is the depth being 6 bars high. This may seem a bit high for some, especially with your fullbacks getting forward, leaving both your centre halves high up the pitch and pretty easy to expose, giving the fast counter-attacking style that 90% of your opponents will play with. But it's high risk, high reward. If you copy this system, neither of the centre-backs will be particularly quick, so you will concede goals on the break from time to time. It is a bit of a non-negotiable, but the depth is pivotal to the system in my opinion for one reason. Pressing in this game is insane. I cannot believe how good it is. Behind me now are occasions that I've managed to score goals just thanks to pressing. You can activate it by pressing down on the D-pad and then left, and it works on kind of a charging system. By that, what I mean is when it's on, it slowly drains and will replenish when it's turned off. It's a bit fiddly to keep turning it on and off, but when it pays off, it does feel incredible. We have the pressure on heavy touch custom tactics anyway, so our players will often try to press if the entire team tries to pass out. I will then use the D-pad option when my opponent has the ball with his goalkeeper and usually tends to opt to go short. This seems to give the entire team a kick up the arse to get in front of the man they are marking and leave the opponent with no passing options. They will then attempt one of these passes anyway, which you can easily intercept, or they will dwell on the ball and you can manually press this person to win back opposition. Again, some people will hit you with a string of quick through balls, long through balls, and completely bypass the press, but again, it's high risk, high reward stuff. If you're trying to get a tooth out of a shark's mouth, eventually it is going to bite you.
Must take the lead here, and they have!
The key part of Tiki Taka, and what most people will probably imagine when they think of it, is playing possession football. Building from the back using the new short goal kicks, keeping the ball on the deck to create chances. Possession, for the reasons already mentioned, is not a very popular place away, but if you do it right, it can be a great way to win. Possession really comes into its own if you do manage to take the lead. At this point, your opponent will likely become very frustrated with the lack of possession and begin to drag their players out to try and chase down the ball. Because you'll be using players with high passing attributes, play it smart and you will be able to play it around the press and make even more chances. That team press option on the D-pad is going to become more and more popular, so learning to play around the press now is going to be fantastic in a few months' time when everyone presses you every time, and having these high passing players allows you to get around them, create quick transitions to create clear cut chances, as shown in this clip.
Brilliant defending. Bernardo Silva, in with a chance. A goal! Real excitement.
Player instructions. These are fairly self-explanatory, so I'll try to breeze through this part. Goalkeeper, you're just going to have sweeper keeper on. You want him to come in and collect those long through balls your opponents will try to play. The sweeper keeper is much worse overall this year. I'm not sure why, and I'm sure it will be patched because they very rarely come out to collect, even if they could do it with ease. But as I say, here's hoping it's patched soon, just get it stuck on. Both central defenders, come as you are, no instructions needed. Fullbacks, both on overlap. I found the 4-1-4-1, they do get far enough forward to provide options without having to stick it on join the attack, as you see from these clips behind. They either come forward enough to be involved with the possession play, or at very worst to create a decoy. As you see here, your opponent will attempt to cut that out, leaving space elsewhere. Your defensive midfielder, you're going to want to uncover centre and stay back while attacking, which are both fairly common, but the surprising part of this defensive behaviour is going to be on man mark. This seems to make for a much more efficient pressing action in this instance. Rodri is always kind of behind his man and dispossesses them as they get the ball, and then when you go on to press, he gets in front of him instead. I've never used man mark before on the defensive midfielder, but yeah, it's been a real kind of revolution of this tactic. The right central midfielder, this is our Xavi. You want to leave everything as it is, you just want this guy to always be available for the pass. On the other side, you've got your Iniesta, a little bit more fun. Like Xavi, the automatic instructions are fine, but you're also going to want to have him on get forward to be that extra option in the box, often running beyond the false 9 up front. On the left, in my head, this is the David Villa, the Alexis Sanchez. This guy will act as one of your main goal scorers, so you'll probably want a right footer to cut inside with, and the only instruction will be, you guessed it, cut inside.
And it's there for him. And a goal!
On the other flank, it's the Pedro of the team. This guy is going to have pace and will sometimes be an important outball. You'll have to cut inside set for this one too, but also get in behind. Cut inside for these wide players also seems to create more space for the fullbacks, encouraging them to get forward more, as you can see on the screen now. And up front we have the piece de resistance of this whole thing, the Messi. If you don't get this part right, everything else falls apart. I did experiment with a wide range of instructions for this, but found that stay central and nothing else worked best. When false 9 was set, he would often sit in between your Xavi and Iniesta a bit too deep, and with the formation leaving him quite isolated, I found that he would often automatically drop deep to find the ball anyway, as you can see from the positioning on screen now. So the false 9 instruction just felt like you were overdoing it with the deepness. I did also try playing with drift wide on, because in real life Messi does drift wide, but again, I'm guessing because of the isolation, the player would just drift wide naturally when just set to stay central, so I didn't really think it was important to have that on. Now, after all this time, we finally have the tactics and the instructions for the system. If you've got your team already, you can go away now, but if not, here are the players that I chose and the players I would recommend, what you're looking for stats wise for this. In goal, you can kind of go for anyone you want. No goalkeeper is very good on this game. You will be playing some short passing with the keeper, so if you've got the budget, I would go for your classic Edison or Neuer. I was on a budget, so went for Kepa. All jokes aside, he was fine. As I say, no goalkeepers are great. At right back, there isn't really anyone in the world of the Dani Alves mould. You're looking for someone with high stamina, good speed, a half decent shot and a great cross. Trent seemed like a must-have here, so he was my number one recommendation. I used him, I loved him. The cheap alternative I would recommend is Thomas Meunier, who can be picked up for around 1,000 coins. At left back, I was looking for anyone physically similar to Jordi Alba. If you have the budget, just get Jordi Alba. For 10% of the price, so you can pick up Alex Grimaldo, a Barcelona boy who looks superb. Left centre back is your captain, your Carlos Puyol. If you have the budget, go and splash the cash on Carlos Puyol. I decided to still put a bit of cash into this position and picked up Aymeric Laporte, who was great. You want someone who's a naturally good defender, can play a short pass and is left-footed. A good cheap option would be Daley Blind, who also ticks the box of being a short defender like Puyol. He'll be partnered by your Piqué, a taller defender who can bring the ball out when needed. If you can get him, just get Piqué, he's really not that expensive, but if you are very much on a budget, you can pick up John Stones for about 1,000 coins. In the defensive midfield role, the 6, the pivot, whatever you want to call it, we are looking for someone similar to Sergio Busquets. Someone who is always free for a pass, can dribble and has a good defensive stats. Surprisingly, this was the most difficult position to find someone for. Busquets isn't too pricey himself, so he would be the best choice. I went with Rodri from Manchester City. The best cheap option I could find was Sami Khedira. Pace is not important in this position, trust me. The fun begins here as we go to the offensive players. First we have our Xavi. This has to be someone with superb passing, that's both short and long, touch-tight ball control and also decent enough finishing, as you will find this player in the box from time to time. You also want someone short to really replicate Xavi. I went for João Moutinho from Wolves and he's probably been the second best player on the team. If you have the money, of course, just get Xavi himself, but he is mentally expensive. In the Iniesta role, you want again someone who can dribble, pass and someone who is short in size. The guy himself has got an inform this year, but it can be tricky to link that into teams unless you go down the all-Spanish route. I went with Phil Foden in this role and found him to be a fine option. Very few players, if any, have the stats to replicate Prime Iniesta. The closest I could really find was Alejandro Gomez, but his speed makes him seem way too quick for this role. But if you have any ideas, let me know down below who could play that role. On the left wing, as I say, the David Villa, Alexis Sanchez type. A wide player who can do a bit of everything, but most importantly score goals. You want someone who's clinical. The biggest hidden gem in this whole team for me was playing this role. Leandro Trossard from Brighton. His agility and finishing make him a great option, as you can see here scoring this lovely goal.
This is looking threatening. This could be the equaliser, and it is the equaliser.
If you have a bunch of money to throw at this left wing position, Heung-min Son would be an ideal candidate. To the right, and we are looking for someone here with speed and agility and not too much else. Because I actually found the right wing seemed to be the best options for someone to play the Messi role, I chose a central player here who would then swap with our Messi in game. So I decided Miguel Almiron had the stats and frame to fit the Pedro role. A bit pricier, but if you are going to go with an out-and-out winger in this role, Porto in Spain fits the bill nicely. Finally, we come on to the man who makes this all work, the superstar, the Messi. If you have the money, I beg that you go and get Messi. No one else will be able to do this role as well as him. We need someone here who is incredible in all departments of dribbling, very high level when it comes to passing and has great acceleration. In terms of shooting, finishing is important, but a lot of the chances will be from very close range, so you don't really need the high 90s of finishing, and anything over 75 will do the trick. The player I ended up getting for this was Bernardo Silva, who fit the bill perfectly. Silva was incredible, and dribbling with him is so easy. He scores goals. Here's like a minute of clips of just great goals I scored with Bernardo Silva. This is the key position for the entire team, so don't be afraid to spend a lot on whoever you get here. Bernardo Silva, Messi, Insigne are the three that really stood out to me. If you are really on a budget, I've tried to look, and I think your best option is Bilbao's Iker Muniain, who looks like he could actually do a pretty good job here. I might try him out at some point.
And now he must score. And a goal, it was served up on a silver platter for him.
So let me know what you think. If this is a style of football you play, you're going to try out the tactic, let me know how it goes down below in the comment section, and also comment down below any other teams, any other tactics you'd like me to make a video like this on. This video did take quite a bit of time to make, as I say, a lot of preparation and a lot of tweaking with the tactic to make it work, so if you did enjoy it, I would really appreciate a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in this kind of thing, and I make tons of FIFA videos like 3-4 times a week, so it's very well worth subscribing. Thanks again. On the screen now you can see the team that we did finish up with, and yeah, stay safe, arrivederci, much love.